Damn. Yeah. Love it.
Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Frankie.
Thank you very much. So over the next few minutes, I hope to teach you all that you would ever want to know about bees and beekeeping. Why bees? How many of you here are allergic to bees or have members of your family allergic to bees? Awesome. Okay. Well, hopefully in this presentation, I'm going to teach you how to appreciate our winged friends. I'm going to start off by talking about the colony, talking about Your Highness the Queen, and also tell you the benefits of bees and why I love bees so much. So who is who in the zoo? If you have a typical bee colony, there's anywhere from 12 to 15,000 bees in a bee colony. Of those, you have one queen. It's a very matriarchal society. She runs the roost. Out of that 15,000, you may have about 50 males out of that entire 15,000. Hard to believe. So when you look around and you see bees flying, what you're really seeing is you're seeing a lot of females working their hind parts off to make honey. I love honey. Honey is one of my favorite treats. I'm like Winnie the Pooh. You give me honey, I'll take it. Honey's expensive though. You know it takes a bee to make a teaspoon of honey? It would take one single bee over 5 years to make a teaspoon of honey. 5 years for a teaspoon, one bee. Thank God we have thousands of bees. So when you look at a typical bee colony, you have 3 different types of bees in a bee colony. You have the queen. Her main job in life is to have babies. That queen over 3 to 5 years will lay anywhere from 500 to 1,500 eggs per day, every day, for 3 to 5 years. Exhausting. You have the drones, which are the males. They're kind of big, fat, doofy guys. They kind of hang out in the colony. Males have no stingers. They don't collect any pollen. They don't make honey. They have one purpose in life, and that is to hopefully mate with a queen. They have one shot, one time in their life, and we'll talk about that. Then you have the worker bees. Those are the ones you see out collecting honey. Those are the little bees that you see that are buzzing around. And by the way, bees can't see red. They're colorblind to the color red. So if you ever get around a bee and you're wearing red and you see something bumping into you, it's because the bee can't see you. If you ever look at roses, red roses, there's no bees around red roses. They can't see the color red. So let me just talk about the drones, my poor fellow guys, these poor guys. So when a drone is born, his whole purpose in life, again, let's say, is to mate with a queen. So once a year, a queen will leave out of the hive. And this happens at a particular time of the year, worldwide. It's the mating season for queens. They will go up about 25 feet in the air, what they call the bee superhighway. It's a technical term. It's like the Autobahn for bees. The queen will go up there. She will fly as fast as she can in one direction. And as she's flying, all the drones know it's that time of year, so they come out of the hive, and their whole purpose in life is to try to catch up with this queen because they want to mate with the queen. Only the fastest male drone can mate with the queen. They have one shot. These queens will fly for about 5 miles. And while they're flying, this fat little male drone is trying to catch up with her and hoping if he can connect, they can mate. And it's a terminal mating because as soon as they mate, she takes off and she rips out all of his innards and falls to his death.
Oh.
It's horrible. So then she's happy. That queen who left this hive will fly back to her hive and she'll fly back inside. And she's now the queen of that hive. The prior queen that was there, she's probably getting to the point she stopped making eggs and making babies. So the other bees will begin to usher her out.
Oh.
The other drones who haven't mated, they all fly back to the hive and they're just waiting to die. Because again, they can't go out and collect honey. They can't protect themselves. And the other bees, as they come in, will know that he was unsuccessful. Mm-hmm. They know his genetics are weak, so they will eventually stop feeding him pollen and honey. And when he gets to the point he's no longer any good, the females will usher him out of the hive and you'll actually see them fall out to their death. And they will sit at the bottom of the hive on the ground until they die. They're worthless if they don't have that one shot in life. They get one shot. So, our queen, our matriarch, our queen, again, for 3 to 5 years, she'll lay anywhere from 5 to 1,500 eggs. And she goes around that little comb every day. And her sole purpose in life is to drop an egg into each one of those little slots. She alone determines if it's going to be a male or a female. If it's going to be a female, she'll drop a little sperm in it, she'll fertilize it. The other bees will come behind her, they cover it up with some pollen, and then she goes on. She determines where the females are going to be laid and where the males are going to be laid. If she doesn't pollinate it with or inseminate it with a little bit of semen, it becomes a male. and becomes a big fat doofus that has one shot in life. So, the queen has laid her eggs, and it's getting to the point in her life, she's about 5 years old. She's starting to slow down production. The other queen, the bees that are there to protect her and to feed her, are the workers. Now, I should really go back a little bit. In the hive, there are 3 kinds of workers. There are those that are there to take care of the queen and the drones. There are bees that live inside the hive, and their whole purpose in life is just to keep that hive warm or keep it cool. They just walk around the hive beating their wings. And then there's the workers that go out and collect the water, collect the pollen to make the honey. So you have 3 kinds of workers. How they get selected, I don't know. That's up to the queen, I guess. I guess she decides who's going to be a worker of the society. But as the queen is going around and she's laying eggs, those worker bees are coming in behind and they're feeding her continually a little bit of honey. They go from mouth to mouth. It's kind of weird. From mouth to mouth, they're feeding the queen, but she just, because she can't stop to eat, she's got to drop eggs. She's got to keep moving, keep moving, keep moving. Because if she stops, then the impression is going to be the queen is slowing down, she's getting old, and they will start to usher her out of the hive. So she has to keep on moving. So she's always busy, she's always busy. Again, it's a matriarchal society. Females rule. The females will determine who's going to be the next queen. So as their queen begins to slow down her production, she begins to lay eggs on the outside of the comb. And those ones on the outside of the comb, it's the worker bees that come in behind that will decide which one of these will probably be a good queen. How they know that, scientists have yet to figure that out. But the ones they've selected, they will begin to feed royal jelly, which is like a super pollinated, super steroid, it's honey on steroids. And they will begin to feed those little eggs a little bit of royal jelly. Now, the ones they feed royal jelly will eventually grow into queens. Their egg gets a little longer, their comb gets a little bit longer, and then it's just a matter of time to who's going to be the first one to pop out. The first queen that pops out, she will actually go around and sting the other queens in their comb to kill them because she wants to be the queen.
What?
I tell you, females rule. I kid you not. So once she has gotten rid of all of her rivals, she will begin to challenge the main queen for the hive. And the main queen, if she's still strong enough, can either put up the resistance or she will be pushed out by the other bees. And they sense this by their pheromones they're releasing. So again, if she's strong enough to take over the hive, she will go out and fly that super highway and the whole process begins again. I got introduced to bees in 2017. I went to the Hope County Fair in North Carolina, and I met Master Sergeant Melvin Connor. He's wearing his Purple Heart recipient hat. And I go to this fair, and there's this huge booming man. He's got his hand in this box. And I walk up, and I'm like, what the heck is he doing? And Melvin's standing there, and he's talking to a group of kids, and they're just like oohing and ahhing. He had his hand inside of a beehive. And the bees are all over his hand, and he's talking to them about this is, and he's moving the side of his hand very slow, and he's pointing out where the queen is and where the different eggs are being laid, and the kids just oohing and ahhing. And I'm thinking, this man's insane. Why would you do that? He pulls his hand out, and there's a few bees on it. He just kind of brushes them off, and they fall away. Make a long story short, Melvin and I strike up a conversation. We become friends. He talks me into joining the academy. So I spent 6 weeks in school learning about bees. I kid you not. I learned more about bees in 6 weeks than I knew about humans. I learned that bees are so necessary. Any of you that eat fruit, vegetables, etc., you know that the reason why we have fruits and vegetables really is because of bees. They pollinate. They're pollinators. What you probably don't know is places like Florida, where the orange orchards are non-pollinated. It's called frankenfruit. They're so genetically engineered, they don't require bees anymore. All of the corn that's grown in America, the tobacco, the cotton, is all self-pollinating. And it's happening because our bees are beginning to die. And they're dying because of the environmental spraying of pesticides, all this other stuff is killing off our bees. So Melvin really showed me the importance of having bees. He's like, Frankie, we gotta do something to keep bees around, man. Because if they go away, everything we're gonna be eating is gonna be genetically engineered. It's gonna be in our system, our kids, our grandkids, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The only place that really uses bees anymore for pollination are the out in California for the almond orchards. They're the only places that really mass use bees anymore. He said, they're dying, man. And as he's telling me about this, and I'm watching Melvin, and I'm thinking about, I saw him with his hand in there. I had to ask him, I said, Melvin, how are you able to stick your hand in a bunch of bees and they don't sting you? He said, that's the trick, my friend. He said, because when you get around bees and you start getting a little antsy, your skin starts to get a little goosebumps, your skin's releasing pheromones. And it's telling the bees that you're a threat. So when the bees hear that or feel that and sense that pheromone in the air, they start coming out to investigate what's going on. And they see you as a threat. Now, most of us think when bees are coming at us, and it's like, they're coming, and it's the swarm. Bees are really just kind of headbutting. They're running into you. They don't want to sting you because they know once I sting you, my stinger pulls out, I die. So I'm trying to push you away. Okay, so I learned about this stuff. And then I got my first beehive. And it took me about 6 months to the point that I could sit in front of my beehive. And now, living with PTSD, I can sit there and watch my bees come and go. And it's the most mindful experience I've ever had. So my hope is that through this quick presentation, you'll learn about bees and the importance of it. Maybe share it with your neighbors, share it with your warriors. It's a wonderful tool for mindfulness. Bees.
11:15. Not bad.
I think you really cleaned it up from our initial presentation. I loved everything that you did, like the placement, the time frame, how you started the story. It was awesome. You think, can you connect with somebody with bees? Not really, but really you can, because everybody experiences these. Are we allergic to them? Do we like them? They're annoying. It was a connection there. So I appreciate that. The story makes me feel like I want to save the world, like I want to help a bee. I don't know. Your gestures, I like, the chair. I was thinking it's going to be a more solemn story. Then you got up and began to walk and do the different things. I like told you when you told me the illustration of the queen and ripping him out and he falls to his death.
And then everybody go,
well played.
It should be like that in real life.
Very well played.
I thought that was excellent. It was like a science class on like PBS, and then it was so much fun to learn about bees. I think you sitting down and then transitioning when the queen comes out of the hive and just starts that 5-mile route. You stand up and start walking in that direction was really cool of a transition. It was really interesting, really great. So now I know about bees. I may not nurture a bee when it comes to headbutt me, because that's not going to happen. No. But that was very interesting. So thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, I definitely connected on this, and was like, I'm super engaged and desired to hear this because the house we purchased in the front is all natural prairie grass with prairie flowers and everything. And one thing I want to do is start a beehive. So I'm like, I'm learning. Yes, this is excellent. I loved you sitting down because it made your movements that much more impactful. When you stood up, it commanded like attention. Like you're setting up for a reason and a purpose. And so I felt all your movements were very purposeful. I also, because you were using the slides as a tool to educate us. For me, if you were standing, I wouldn't be able to see everything.
Right.
But you sitting, I was able to engage. You point out, I'm like, oh yeah. So the diagrams, you use your tools to the maximum effectiveness. That's pretty much what I've got. Your gestures were there. You made eye contact, everybody around the room. So the page was definitely cool.
Who knew? Ruthless little buggers. I thought it was really cool. And actually, as you were talking, I was thinking in my head, I'm like, well, so I have a lavender plant in front of my house, and there's these big fat guys that are there. So it's like, as you were talking, I was already connecting it with other things in my life in a very positive way. So I was hearing what it was that you were saying, and I was immediately associating with stuff that's already kind of being experienced in my life. So I mean, I was kind of a little bit skeptical when I heard you were going to be talking about bees, but I also liked how you brought it in of like, this is bees, this is why they're cool, they make our food, let's save the bees, and oh, by the way, I have PTSD, and I could sit in front of my hive and I can just mindfully watch them, and it's a great therapeutic tool. And I was like, oh, I thought that was really great.
Do you know who David Attenborough is?
Yes.
You're the David Attenborough. You know, like if I was watching TV, I could totally imagine watching a nature show, which I totally dive into and can get lost into that. And at first, my thought process was, where is your CSRP? Where is this connected to something mental health? Like it's got to, right? You know. But as you started talking about the bees, that could have never entered the conversation, and I would have been perfectly happy with that because I was fully engrossed in what I was learning about as far as the bees. I felt like one of those little kids you were talking about, you know what I mean? Tell me more. But then bringing it back to that mental health place and inserting yourself in how you've really benefited from your interaction with these bees was great. It was perfect.
Thank you.
I echo what Dorca said and all the things we talked about, and I liked that there was a couple minutes at the end dedicated to you like highlighting why being able to interact with these bees is so huge for you and your plan. And I still would love to hear more about it just because I'm just curious about it. But I feel like you have a very calming presence and your voice is very even. And then you were like Benjamin said, you were strategic, and when you did stand up, it was so much more impactful when you did fluctuate your voice and emphasize something. I just felt like it just added that quick little element and then went back to the rest of the story. And so I was very able to like focus on the facts we were talking about and not get distracted by, you know, ad-libs or anything like that. And when we did make them, I like enjoyed the moment and then moved back to learning more about these. So I just thought it was a really great balance. And I did think it was cool, like Raquel said, I really felt like you were sitting in the honeycomb and the bee's nest, you know, and then when you were leaving and then going on the bee's journey, and then you would return as the bees were returning in your story. And so I thought that was very tactful as well. And yeah, I didn't know I'd be so interested in learning about bees.
So yes, I connected with your story. I run from bees, and I probably will continue. But it's good to know that they're just headbutting, you know. I agree with Alexis. I think you have a very calming presence, and I felt like I did feel like a little kid, like listening, because I was very anxious, like because I wanted to ask you questions. Like I felt myself like wanting to say something, like it was very good, very intriguing on a subject like everybody else said was like what. So really good job at portraying that. Thank you.
I mean this is a very high compliment. You evoked the most natural reactions in me that weren't laughter. Like my mouth was like,
she was very impressed.
I was like, my brain was gonna be on the camera, and I was like, toxoplasmosis, blah. Never talk about psychopaths again. I just want you to tell me more about this stuff. I was 100% engaged, and it is very late in the day, which I didn't expect to feel like this. Like, my mind was like, this is exactly what I want to be hearing right now.
She seriously was very excited.
I was. I'm feeling this like physical desire to act out. So no, I felt like a child, but I also now feel like a bee master. They scare me, but now because I am very allergic, but I feel like, you know,
be calm,
rolling the dice a little, and maybe even
she's like, well,
in your paws. I just felt very, and I always thought that they were like nature's miracle because of the pollination and all of that. They are incredible, and without them, like, we really are going to suffer as a society 1,000 times over. But like, they are ruthless and scary too. I did not know about the queen, you know, in way, it's like all the princesses are trying to kill each other. That's awesome. Anyway, so that was
only awesome. Is it me? Only women think this is amazing when they kill each other? Like,
I'm just saying. I mean, this is the reverse of a lot of society.
It is. Totally.
It's like Game of Thrones and the insect.
I know. It really highlights how males don't really serve too much of a place.
There we go.
Hey, but when Anita goes into anaphylactic shock because of you,
that's how impactful fill this one.
She was like, I'm going out and sticking my hand in a beehive.
I at the very least want to start watching, like, I mean, I love watching videos of that stuff anyway, but like, when you were saying the mindfulness of it and just like watching them cover, I can totally understand that appreciation.
When it gets to the point, I can sit there, I can watch them flying, and you can actually, the term, you're the bee's knees, you heard that before? It's because bees carry the pollen on their knees. It's the pollen sac. So when somebody goes, you're the bee's knees, you're saying you are awesome. You are like, and when you can stand there, sit there and watch them fly, and you can see the pollen on them, you're like, wow. When you see them come in and you see them hold like a little thing of a drop of water, and you're like,
Second, I'm never that close.
yeah.
All right, I just want to first, there are a lot of crops being grown in my home state of Indiana, and we have tons of bees. So Indiana
Awesome.
hearts bees.
Yay.
You ask the audience questions, which I love, and it's a great speaking tactic. They're rhetorical, sort of.
Not
And
for anything.
right, so you're asking us questions, and so we're thinking about the answers, or at least we're waiting for you to give us the answers, and that's great. Just give us a little pause sometimes. I love that Alexis already pointed this out. The chair is the hive, and that's such an important part of. And a lot of people don't use chairs well. Gosh, you guys are, so great job. You did passive definition also really well. The one that sticks out the most was royal jelly, because I didn't, that's a great one to explain. And here's the thing. Every story can be relatable, and it's the telling, right? That's the secret sauce. You have that. The mindfulness that you can practice by being a beekeeper that helps you with your PTSD could come in earlier in the speech and maybe more frequently if you want. It's great at the end. But there's so many connections, like bees can't see red. But when you have PTSD and it is full on, everything is red, right? So I could see a lot of parallels there that you could bring it in. Your presentation style is that of a video that I watched on Christmas Eve. It was Terry Crews painting a Christmas scene. It's on demand. It's the most calming thing I've ever seen. It's like that Bob guy that paints things.
Bob Ross.
It's like Bob Ross, but it's Terry Crews.
Wow.
It's like Terry Crews being Bob Ross. You're better than that. So I would listen to your style all day long. Just wonderful.
Yeah, it's not working. But good try. I too am allergic to bees. I, unlike Anita, will not be going. I'm not going to take the risk. Also because EpiPens are like insanely expensive now. So I just take the risk with my life anyway. Yeah, it didn't convince me to get closer to them, but I do have a deeper respect for them now. I do also understand that bees are necessary for like our world. Basic, like I saw the bee movie. Jerry Seinfeld told me all about it.
Really?
Yeah, he did. Really? He taught me all about it. But you took a topic that could be very boring, and it wasn't boring for even one moment.
No.
This was a very fact-based presentation, but I didn't feel like it was factual at all. Like I felt like it was, obviously I trusted what you were saying, but it felt very natural and very like calming. I agree. You are a very calming speaker. Thank God, since you do what you do here, because I imagine all of you guys have to be calming. But well, I don't say it out loud.
This one.
But you have a natural storytelling vibe about you. So like I could see you like sitting in front of the fire reading to the kids, like that's your future about bees.
About bees.
Yeah, you'll have a bee book. I think that I agree, like using a chair as much as you did can be the opposite of what you did. Like a lot of times when people use chairs, they either do it way too much or they jump up and down and there's no point at all. I think it was very like intentional what you did, and I thought that was great. I would say though, I wouldn't start sitting. Like I would start standing and then sit down right away. That's fine. Like I would kick it off standing and then sit in the hive.
Okay. Because
Before you even start talking, we're not in the hive with you, and then you take us into the hive with you. I think your paralanguage is great. I was all over the place in a really good way. Like the roller coaster was really good. Your movements were intentional, as I said. I think that I agree with Jennifer. I think you could actually use this with warriors for sure. And I think you could weave more of these things throughout each piece so that it like drives it home. Sure. But yeah, you should definitely keep working on this one because I think there are hard topics that you're talking about but you're not really talking about them. And so you're like, it's like tricking the kid to eat the medicine by, you know what I mean? It's like that. Exactly. With honey. Exactly. So yeah, I thought you, I really liked everything you did. I really did. The only thing I would say is like, I want to hear more you stories in there. Okay. And when you did touch on those things, it was cool. Like it was a moment. Mm-hmm. So I just wanted more in the beginning. Okay.
Can I just add that I actually related to the bee, like when we were talking about how like she can't slow down because they're gonna push her out. I was like, there's some metaphor in there that really spoke to me.
That was PTSD.
This presentation very much spoke to you.
Yeah. You can't tell the science.
I might send you the PowerPoint.
But that's a good point.
No, but yes, there are a lot of metaphors that can be drawn.
How many warriors have mania?
Right.
And
Exactly.
It's so prevalent.
Yeah.
Great job.
Yay.
And it's problem service connected.
No,
Yes.